Good morning, and welcome back to Jack's Coffee Break. My name is Jack, and today we are looking at the new anniversary animal, the new collared peccary. So I have a few of them right here. I'm going to keep it paused so that way we can get a good look at them. They're quite small. That's the first thing that struck me about these creatures, is that they're very small. I'm actually kneeling down in explore mode, and it's still, like, tiny. The second thing is that you need quite a lot of them for your habitats. You need between 5 and 15. Minimum is 5. I've got 7 in here right now. And third thing, they don't really seem to have a lot of color variation. I bought a whole bunch of them and didn't really pay attention to like what I was buying, besides, making sure that I had a nice mix of male and female and, stats and no stats. But color-wise, they're pretty uniform, which is very interesting to me. So let's go ahead and hit play. Let's look at some of their animations. And I think that I'm going to go into camera mode for these guys, just that way we can get a really good look at them. So yeah, they're really good. They're really good. I have to admit, I wasn't really expecting to get a pig for our anniversary update. And of course, for biology nerds like me, we didn't get a pig. This is not... They're pig-like, but supposedly they're not... Like, they're Artiodactyla, but they're not, like, boars, which is interesting. I have a whole bunch of research that I want to do on these guys, because I know basically nothing about them. I barely even heard of them until the announcement was made, and we started to get into some speculation. They look really good. This guy is just not moving around all that much. Let's see if we can find somebody who is actually, like... Here we go, this one's moving around a little bit. He's using the new, well, it's not new. It's base game scent marker. But yeah, so they're interesting little critters. Like I said, I've never... Oh, hello. Hi. There's a box. I've never, like, really heard of these guys. I've never really seen them. So this is a really fun introduction for me. It's not often that I run into an animal I haven't heard of. So it's always exciting when that happens. So, since we... have got a new animal in the game, I guess that means that we have a new creature we gotta build for, and that we have to learn something about. Oh, one just returned to the habitat. So we are on the South America map today, and we're specifically on the South America desert map. I thought that it would have like a really nice, and we're gonna get some poops. Of course we would. Of course you're gonna poop on camera. Thank you, Keeper. But I thought it would make a really nice backdrop. You've got all these mountains, and like the map itself is like super cool. Oh, he's having a shake. I think there's a sprinkler over there. So let's go ahead and zoom out real quick. There we go. So yeah, we're on the South America desert map. It's a neat little map. It's got more terrain than you expect, like terrain variation. Like, it's not actually flat. It's cool. I like it, but I struggle to build here. Oh, and we might get some babies. That's cool. It's so hectic right now. It is so hectic in this habitat. Let's calm down a little bit. Let's let them live their lives, and let's go over some of the stats for these animals. So, like I said, they require groups between 5 and 15. I've got them pulled up here in the Zoopedia. So this is their range. We've got a little bit of North America. They go up into like Arizona. A little bit of... What is that? New Mexico? Looks like New Mexico, Arizona, maybe a little bit of Texas. And then they go all the way down, and they're mostly on the coastline of Mexico. They're not actually in the central area, it looks like. So they pretty much avoid the deserts. And then, of course, through the Central American jungles down here, down through Panama, and into most of South America. It looks like a lot of, Brazil, Argentina, Paraguay. We've got a whole listing through here. Apparently they have them on Costa Rica, which is really cool. I didn't realize that they were out on the islands at all as well. So, looks like they've got a fairly expansive range. We also see that their biomes are going to be desert, tropical, grassland, and temperate. That makes sense. So, it looks like we're really not going to have a lot of difficulty blending them into most of your existing zoos. You might have to do a little bit of temperature regulation for, like, taiga. And, of course, you need temperature regulation for everything in tundra. That's not a surprise. They also don't need a lot of space, so the bare minimum for a group is going to be 328 meters. They don't need climbing, water, or any kind of water depth, of course. Generally, if you don't have water, you don't need water depth. And they live in a wide range of temperatures. It looks like 25 to 109, so basically the entire gauntlet. So in the warmer seasons of your Arctic map, you might actually have some kind of success with these as well. So really broad ranges. They don't require a lot of, they don't require their barrier to be very high. It looks like a 1.25 meter, which is pretty low, all things considered. 1 meter usually being the lowest, 2 meters being the average. So really not difficult to house. I have them in the concrete barrier right now, but that was because I just needed something to place down and I wanted to be sure that they wouldn't escape, but it turns out you can really hold them in like a grade 2, and that will work as well. So, species data. As for their group blending, you can have up to 14 males and 14 females, so they're very much accepting of like whatever you buy is what they'll tolerate. They don't care. Just very nice to see. Dominance. Male hierarchy is based on the size of the individual, and the female hierarchy is based on the age of the individual. So we see that a lot, mostly in ungulates. That is pretty close to like how horses and cows work, but we also see it here again, clearly not an ungulate. Mating system is polygynous. So generally this means that there's going to be one male, and he will have a harem of females. That's usually how that works. Maturation rules, matrilineal. Any mature males specifically related to the alpha. This is important for these guys. Related to the alpha become outsiders. So for example, I have in this a whole bunch of males. I've got Jose over there. There we go. So I've got Jose and Juan, and they're not related to each other, and they're getting along just fine. But let's say that Juan and Dolores over here had like a litter, or I don't know what you would call the babies of this species. Any males born of that pairing would immediately become outsiders, because Juan here would be considered the alpha, and he does not want his male children to become competition. So that's basically what that means. We see that their relation with humans is neutral, so you're probably not going to have too many issues with stress. If you put them in a high noise, high viewing area of your park, you might run into some issues, but not too many. And the guests cannot enter the habitat, so this is very important. So if you want guest, close interaction, you're probably going to want to use like viewing domes. Again, they're not very tall. They're about 40 meters at the shoulder, which I don't know what that translates to in inches, but I mean, quite frankly, this entire game is in, metric, so I'm not too concerned about it. You can basically tell from here, they're pretty small. They're maybe like, less than a meter tall. I'd call that maybe like 2 feet at the maximum. They're itty bitty. Let's see here, what else do we have? Life expectancy is going to be 20 years. So especially if you're like a franchise or like a career mode player or something like that, you're going to have these guys for a very long time, which is wonderful. And it looks like they usually have about 1 to 3 offspring per mating event, and they become sterile when they die, which is, obviously, but it's nice to know that there's not like you've aged out and now we're never going to get a litter out of you, so we can expect a lot of these guys, and it looks like, they're going to be fairly decent for some kind of, earning conservation credits, releasing to the wild. Unfortunately, it does look like the amount of conservation credits you're going to get are going to be pretty low, because they're of least concern, and that of course is factored into the amount of conservation credits you earn. As for interspecies bonus, we have actually a lot of animals that it's compatible with. So American bison, capybara, Colombian white-faced capuchin monkey, giant anteater, and a llama. So if you're working with the base game only, you're going to want to probably put these in with the American bison to a certain point. The rest of these are mostly like DLC animals, which makes sense. The North American and South American sections of the Zoopedia were not fleshed out with the base game at all. So if you have a lot of the DLCs, you're going to have a great time. But it is nice that they included something from the base game for new players or people who can't afford the DLCs. So I do like that a lot. And then of course we have a whole bunch of information about their fun facts and then diet. Interestingly, I think these guys might end up making really good starter animals, because we see that they need root vegetables and salad, herbivore pellets, fruit. So these are completely herbivorous animals. They don't need any kind of meat, which means that their prices for feeding these guys is going to be fairly low, despite the number that you have. And the ease of their reproduction means that you're going to start earning those conservation credits very quickly. So this is definitely one to keep on the radar for your next franchise restart. I think that this is going to work out really well. So anyway, with all of those basics done, let's talk about their habitat needs. So I have out all of their enrichment items. So I've got their food, their water, we've got the sprinkler. We already saw them use the herb scent marker. That's pretty standard. We have cardboard boxes all over the place. We've got the small barrel feeder. We've got a scratching post. We've got the wind chimes, which is nice. We have the mud bath and the forage box. These I struggle with. They're just really hard to incorporate into any habitat. And it has to do with how enrichment works with like terrain more than anything else. But if you like to incorporate these, then you're probably going to have a good time. If you don't want to have to deal with those, of course, we also have scratching post trees. We have this stick feeder over here. We've got this scratching post. So a lot of different opportunities. And I might see if I can get some footage of them actually using these two items, because they're called out specifically in the new introduction for the animals. Lastly, you'll see that I have a lot of shelter in here, and this is actually the bare minimum of their requirement. Like, you can use more, but this is exactly what you need to get them to 100. So we have an 8x8x2, and we have a 4x4x2. So it looks like you're gonna need roughly 1, 2, 3, 4, 8, 9. Looks like you're gonna need about 9 ceilings or 9 grid blocks worth of shelter for these guys. So quite a lot. And we actually have them in an enormous habitat right now. Again, they don't need a whole lot. With my group of 7, they need 342 meters, and I actually have them in an 1125 meter squared area. Now, granted, you could probably shrink this down quite a bit if you were to have, less enrichment, not dumping the entire catalog into their habitat. But definitely their hard shelter is going to be a concern. And it leads me to wonder if these guys would be best suited for a indoor-outdoor habitat style more than a pure outdoor. But we are going to be building a couple of styles today because I really want to work with these animals, and I have a few ideas of like cool habitats that I think we could do with them. Lastly, terrain distribution. So I've had it pulled up here for a little while now for you to see, but we're going to go through it real quick. So it turns out that starting them in the desert was the perfect idea. They needed basically no changes to their habitat. They will tolerate just about any amount of sand, but they do have a bare minimum for soil. So even if everything else is completely flat to the wall, you are going to need a little bit of dirt in their enclosure, so there is going to be a little bit of terraforming you're going to have to do. And it looks like they will tolerate any amount or no amount of grass. I shouldn't say any amount. They actually have a very low grass requirement, so we can expect this to be more soil, more sand. Basically, your habitat's going to look a little bit more like the oh my goodness, I'm blanking on their name. The timber wolf. So your habitat's going to look a little bit more like the timber wolves, essentially, as far as like just your terrain painting goes. Not necessarily your coverage. Again, they lean towards tropical and temperate and hot temperatures. So we can expect North America, South America, temperate, grassland, tropical, and desert for their requirements, as we stated before. But that does mean that we are going to have a pretty insane amount of foliage options, So definitely something that I'm looking forward to playing with. So anyway, that's been the rough introduction. I'm going to go ahead and start building some habitats, and then I think what I'll do is, if there's something like really cool, we'll like highlight something that I did or whatever, but for the most part, I think that we're going to do a walkthrough at the end, and then we'll see the animals actually engage with their environment. we are back from the speed build. So this habitat really wasn't too difficult. It took about an hour. Oh, we got some mating behavior. We might get more babies. That's good. But yeah, so this habitat only took about an hour. It's pretty big for these animals, I'm not gonna lie. It's even bigger than this one, actually. Let's double check the space. Yeah, 1348 walkable terrain. Of course, we did also include, like, a little bit of water. We included that mud bath. I managed to squeeze that in here. I really wanted to incorporate one of those bigger pieces. And for hard shelter, I ended up making this ledge through here. So this was, like, the main idea that I had for this habitat, was I really wanted this sort of internal, like, hide space, this kind of ledge crawl area. I don't know what you call this. Maybe like an overhang? Oh, we're gonna get babies soon. Wonderful. We will go check them out when they actually arrive. Over here we have just a basic walk-by area. So I do have this little inset area for people who actually want to come by and see the peccaries, and then another lane that's supposed to be for people who are just passing through. So there we go. Let's go see these babies. Oh my goodness, they're so tiny. Look at them. Oh, they're super cute. It's having some water. Oh, they're so cute. So yeah, these are the babies. This is my first time seeing them. They are, I will admit, I think I like the Red River Hogs a little bit better, but they are adorable. So I like them. They're lovely. Anyway, oh, and it's like a really good peccary. That's good. Okay. But yeah, so this is just a walk-by area, and then if we go into explore mode, we look through here. There we go. So this would be the view from the habitat. So I did end up using one-way glass. It's not strictly necessary, but I prefer to use it for most of my builds. It's just easier to have everything fairly uniform. And also so that way I don't have to deal with, like, you know, if they do end up getting stressed, I don't have to retool everything. We do also have this, like, spillover feature over here, but I didn't add any of the water effects. It just didn't seem relevant. So, anyway, this is option 1. I think I am going to go ahead and do an option 2 as well, so... Alrighty, and we are back from building the second habitat. So this one I wanted to go ahead and use something more tropical, because the first one that we did was very desert-centric. More like a California style, like I guess down into Mexico, but more that region. So the second one, I really wanted to focus on more of the tropical feeling. And I'm not really happy with the foliage in here. To be honest, designing for tropical habitats is really not one of my strong points. I expect them to be like really lush and green and to just cram in as many pieces of vegetation as we can. And the animals just don't really like that. So it's difficult to figure out a balance for me, at least. So I kind of did the best I could, but the overall shape I really like. I'm really happy with this. We did a lot of just completely organic shapes. So we started off with this kind of like boot shape, and then turned it into a full building, which let's go ahead and do our walk around. But then we also took the edges off of this building and used them to design the actual edges of the habitat as well. So, anyway, I have not decorated this really. It didn't really seem relevant to the build. We're supposed to be here to focus on the peccaries, not really, anything else. The glass is tinted. This is partially because of the glass that I chose, and partially because I suppose you could argue that, like, it just makes more sense in sort of where we're located. That you wouldn't want those UV rays and the blinding light coming through the windows. So, anyway, this is the little education center. So I think if I had more time, I would probably decorate this out, do a little bit more with it. But again, we really just want to showcase the animals today. Coming around this edge, so this is supposed to give you sort of a view of the outside of the habitat. So if the inside really only shows you like this ledge over here and then some of these trees, this is where you can get the full 3D view, I guess. So again, I'm really happy with the bones of it. I think I would like to redo the foliage. But everything else I'm really happy with. So, anyway, those have been my builds for the peccary, and our introduction to the animal and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, I'd love to hear how you guys are enjoying this animal. I'm having a lot of fun with it. I can see a lot of really cool uses for it in franchise. Again, it reproduces so fast, and its care requirements are fairly low. And yeah, they're fun, easy animals to build for, and I think they would fit in really well to just about any franchise or career or anything like that. I think they'd work really well there. But yeah, I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts on it. If you're enjoying it, if you were hoping for something a little different, Anyway, hope y'all have enjoyed, and hope to see you next time.